Hello everyone and welcome to Voice City Youth Talk Show, the youth talk show that has got everyone talking, where we discuss the day-to-day challenges that we face as youth that we're not as comfortable discussing with our parents or with our guardians. My name is Brandon Chinembri, your host, and this is my co-host.
Hello everyone, I am your co-host Nokanya Hlabangana, and this is Voice City Youth Talk Show. So joining us today is a well-respected lawyer, Mr. Brian Dube, who is going to be helping us into delving deeper into the legal aspects of marriage. We welcome you, Mr. Dube.
Thank you. Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the show.
So, Mr. Dube, what is the legal definition of marriage? How does the law define marriage legally?
Thank you. There is no one-size-fits-all definition for marriage at law. The definition of marriage at law actually follows the type of marriage consent. So maybe it will help us to go into the types of marriage that are recognized at law. In Zimbabwe, as guided by the Marriage Act, Chapter 517, it states that there are actually 4 types of marriages that are recognized at law. First of all, we have this marriage that is called civil law marriage. And then secondly, we have a registered customary marriage. And then thirdly, there is unregistered customary marriage. And the last, of course, which is a little bit controversial, is civil partnership. So to begin with, a civil law marriage is a marriage union between 2 people of opposite sex, of course, that isolate these 2. There is no third party in it. So it is a union to the exclusion of any other person. And it is monogamous in nature. So 1 wife, 1 husband. Then on the other hand, a registered customary marriage, it may be polygamous or potentially polygamous. May not be polygamous, but it might have a room for a next wife or a second wife, a third wife, depending on the tradition consent. So this marriage is contracted following the cultural rights or traditional rights. It is contracted following the cultural practices of a certain community. So if this marriage is registered with the registrar's office, if you are here in Bulawayo, that will be a trade court office, then it becomes a registered customary marriage. On the other hand, if this marriage is not registered, if it's contracted following cultural practices, but is never registered with the registrar's office, it simply becomes an unregistered customary marriage. And then the last one is civil partnership. Civil partnership, it involves 2 adult persons living together as husband and wife in all respects, but they are not legally married. What we used to call cohabitation, umaslalisane, that is what the law terms civil partnership. It's more like partners who come together, they live together, one brings this, one brings that, then they are together. There's nothing official. That's a civil partnership. So basically, these are the 4 types of marriage, and each one of them has a different definition altogether.
Okay. So having been told the definitions and these different types of marriages, would you please enlighten us on the legal requirements that are necessary for a marriage to be recognized in Zimbabwe?
Okay. Thank you so much. I think it goes without saying again that when we're talking about the legal requirements, again, they follow the type of a marriage consent.
Okay.
Maybe let's pick one. Let's just talk about civil marriage, the legal requirements for civil marriage. What is it that is needed for a civil marriage to be recognized at law? So for all marriages, this one goes for all marriages, there must be consent. The parties to the marriage must consent to that marriage. A free consent, a full consent, a clear consent. That is the first thing. And then the second thing is that they must appear in person. So there's no representation when it comes to that one. They must appear in person. And for a civil marriage, no one between these two must be married either customarily or under civil marriage law or general law before they contract this civil marriage. So civil marriage simply says the person who enters into it must not be married before. So if one has been once married before, they have to make sure that they cut ties through a divorce so that they can get married through civil marriage. And then with customary marriage, the requirements differ. Of course, there is consent, there is no representation, and there are cultural compliances. That is cultural practices such of lobola, the one that we dealt with some from our previous discussion. So if all those cultural compliances have been met, then a customary marriage can come into effect.
Okay.
So the same goes for unregistered customary marriage, but then with civil partnership is a ground of no rules, really. So we cannot talk about any requirements.
So are there any legal implications or obligations associated with marriage?
Absolutely. If you check the provisions, Section 6 of the Civil Marriages Act, Chapter 516, it states that during the subsistence of the marriage and at its dissolution, the parties to a marriage have equal rights and obligations. So there are implications that come about with the solemnization of the marriage. For instance, both spouses are expected to maintain each other during and after marriage. They are also expected to maintain the children if the marriage is blessed with children. So they are supposed to maintain the children. Those are some of the implications that come about with a marriage setup. Of course, there are also property ownership implications that I believe maybe we'll deal with them at a later stage.
Okay. So you did mention about consent and all of that. So now, are there any restrictions regarding the age of consent with marital status for those seeking marriage?
Yes, there are restrictions in respect of age. There are restrictions in respect of marital status. According to Section 78 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, Constitutional Amendment number 20 of 2013, it states that everyone who has attained the age of 18 years has a right to find a family. So already we are given the majority age, there being 18 years, meaning to say a person who is below 18 years is not eligible enough to get married. So there is an age restriction. One has to attain a majority age, and in Zimbabwe, majority age is 18 years. And in terms of marital status becomes an issue when one marries under civil marriage. Civil law requires that a person who is contracting a marriage of this type must not be a spouse to any existing civil marriage. Meaning to say, one person cannot be married under civil marriage law, cannot be married twice under civil marriage law. Yes, so they can only be married once. So that's a marital status requirement. And also, if somebody intends to marry, for example, in Zimbabwe and they reside in South Africa, I'm just giving an example, they must apply to the registrar for a certificate of no impediment to marriage, a certificate that they will produce in the country they intend to marry. to show that from the country of their origin, they are not married. So again, you can see a marital status issue popping up there.
Okay, all right.
So what are the legal provisions regarding separation and divorce?
Okay, the law provides that a divorce is permissible at law. There are grounds that are expected to be met for one to file for divorce. So a divorce is simply a dissolution of a marriage. So there are grounds that are supposed to be met. For example, you would expect that there must be what we call irretrievable breakdown of a marriage.
Okay.
So this is a wide factor that can be attained from various angles, that can be attained through various actions. Irretrievable breakdown of a marriage can be attained by simply dying of affection towards the other party. It can be attained through maybe a long imprisonment for the other party. If maybe one spouse is facing a custodial sentence, a lengthy custodial sentence that is of 5 years and above, so that enables the other party to file for divorce. And also the issues of infidelity that can not be condoned by the aggrieved party can be a ground of divorce. So what perhaps I would like to clarify is the distinction between separation and divorce, because the two are different. People can be separated for years but still legally married. So separation is not divorce. Simply means that the spouses are no longer living together. But legally, their marriage is still valid in terms of the register of the registrar at Trade Court, if you are here in Bulawayo.
Talking of divorces, so now per se, one partner dies and then, so they are not divorced, but then now the remaining partner wants to get married. Are they allowed? Are there any legal procedures?
No, in such a situation, there is no need for any legal procedure, because marriage can be dissolved either by death or divorce. So if the other part, yes, till death do us part. So goes the saying.
Okay.
Yeah. So if the other party is no more, then automatically the marriage has been dissolved.
Right. Thank you so much for watching this episode as we defined and delved deeper into the legal implications of marriage. Catch us on our next segment of the same episode. That will be a question and answer segment where we answer questions that are coming from you, and we have our lawyer here to answer those questions. Catch us on our next segment. Hello and welcome back to the second segment, and this is our question and answer segment where we're answering questions that are coming from the public at large. Welcome to our second segment.
Right, so our first question is coming from Victor from Borrowdale, and he's saying, is it a good idea to take part in a prenuptial agreement?
Okay, thank you for the question. Maybe before we respond to that, it would be prudent of us to first understand what a prenup is.
Yes.
Yes, a prenuptial contract is an arrangement that the two who are intending to get into a marriage contract. This arrangement actually determines property ownership of their estate before they get into marriage. So there are two regimes that govern property ownership in marriages. There is the first one that is in community of property, And there is the second one that is out of community of property. The first one meaning that the parties bring their resources together into a one pool that is in community of property. And out of community of property, the parties, it simple means that one maintains their own estate during the course of their marriage. So a prenuptial contract will then be that arrangement where the law stipulates that all marriages are in community of property. A prenuptial contract will then state that maybe this particular couple want theirs to be in community of property. They have to state it in their agreement. It's called a prenup because it precedes the solemnization of the marriage. It comes before the marriage comes into effect, before the marriage is contracted. So yeah, it depends. We cannot really say is it wise or whatever about it. It depends with what the spouses, the intending spouses, are expecting. Yes.
Okay.
So I've got someone here from Hillside in Bulawayo saying, I've been having issues with my partner and I'm thinking of a possible divorce. Is it a good idea to first separate before deciding to divorce?
That's an interesting question. Divorce is not a taboo at law. It's provided for, and there are conditions, or should I say grounds, that first have to be met before one can file for divorce. Divorce is simply a dissolution of a marriage, a cancellation of a marriage, invalidation of a marriage union. So there is no specific time that has to first elapse before one can file for divorce with regard to separation. Once the grounds of divorce are met, one can file for divorce right away.
Okay.
Okay, so yet another youth from Hillside is saying, men are allowed to have more than one wife, but does the law allow for polyandry, which is for women to have more than one man?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the question. Maybe what we need to understand is that the aspect of polygamy, that's men having more than one wives, at law is accepted as it is right from culture or tradition, our cultural practices. So the law simply adopts what our societies, our communities are practicing in our cultural respects. So polyandry, that is a situation where a lady can have more than one official married husband, is unknown of in our communities. It is actually alien in our societies. Because of that, it's not afforded or accommodated in our legal system, simply because there is no trace of it in our cultures.
Okay.
Right. Got some. So, in case you were thinking about having more than one husband,
Lent. Okay.
So we've got someone here saying, my parents are divorced and I'm staying with my mother and her new husband. Yeah. When you hear someone say and her new husband, it means but I want custody to be given to my father. Am I allowed as a minor to make that decision?
Okay, thank you. In Zimbabwe, there is a general presumption that a mother is the best parent to have custody of minor children, unless it can be proven to the contrary, that the kids will not be safe in the custody of the mother. But that is an issue that has to be decided by the court, because the court in a divorce action has to further and protect the best interest of the child. So if children are involved, in a divorce action, the court has to see to it that they are better protected. Unfortunately, a minor cannot make that decision, though their input can be considered, but is not decisive. The whole discretion is at the hands of the court, considering the issue in its holistic, without necessarily handpicking one or two factors. So it's a combination of factors that determines who has the custody of children after divorce. The person who's asking a question is not in a position to decide, especially since they are a minor. They cannot decide to that.
Unless there's proof that it's unsafe to stay with the mother.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, relating to that youth's question, another youth is saying, my parents are going through a divorce and I'm caught up in the middle of everything. Is it possible for me to somehow hinder the divorce from happening?
Okay, this one is interesting. Hinder the divorce from happening. As who? That's interesting. Remember what we said earlier, a marriage union is a union between two people that is in a monogamous marriage setup. If it's a polygamous marriage setup, it's between the husband and whatever number of wives that he has. So it does not in any way involve the children. Though the children are a product of a marriage union, they are not part to that marriage. They are part of the family, but they are not part to the marriage. It's so unfortunate that when two elephants are fighting, it is the grass that suffers most, but it is not up to the grass to stop the fight. So unfortunately, a child cannot hinder a marriage, a divorce action between the parents. Though they are affected, but they cannot stop it. It's between the two. Marriage at law is considered as a contract. So the parties to a contract is the husband and wife.
Okay. So now for this youth, since he or she is affected by the divorce, does the law offer services for the children who are caught up in the middle? Maybe to provide therapy?
Yes, we do have Justice for Children here in Zimbabwe that caters for the rights of the children, the welfare of the children. They might get assistance under that approach.
Okay.
Yes, but they certainly can't stop a divorce from happening. Once the grounds are met, then divorce is certain.
On that note, is there a limit to the number of times people can divorce and re-get married to each other? Let's say we divorce and we decide that we can't live without each other, and we remarry again. Is there a limit to the amount of times that we can do that?
Well, generally at law, there's no limit to that. There's no limit to that. Maybe what we need to understand is that according to the provisions of Section 78 of the Constitution, we have what we call marriage rights.
Okay.
So the issue of marriage is a right, and a right, a constitutional right, is a right that one can always exercise as long as they are not doing so to the detriment of the next person. So they are at liberty to exercise it. So they can get married as many times as they can, provided at any given point they divorce, but the whole situation might render the court process a mere sounding sham. It might make mockery of our legal system. You can imagine a situation whereby we have this couple getting married this month, few months down the line, they are divorcing, they get married, they divorce. So it might make mockery of the court system. What I know is that at law, there is this principle that is followed, a principle which allows the court to throw away an issue or a matter simply because it is vexatious or frivolous. That is, if it is an issue that is immaterial before the court, or an issue that is more like a window shopping expertise, whereby somebody is just abusing the court process. So that practice might amount to an abuse of the court process.
Okay.
Okay, so here Lynn Rose from Sourcetown is saying, I had a child at 17, got married at 18, and ended up stopping school, but now I'm 21 and I want to continue with my studies, but my husband won't allow me to go back. So does the law have any services that they can offer to help me out?
Okay, thank you so much. Maybe if I got that situation clearly, getting married at 17, at 18. It was at 18.
Yes, pregnant child at 17.
Okay. To continue with education is a right. It's a constitutional right. The Constitution affords everyone a right to education. It affords everyone a right to find a career or a trade of their choice. So it is not up to the husband to decide whether or not the wife has to continue with education, or whether or not the wife has to follow a certain career or trade. So she is at liberty. This is an inherent constitutional right given her by the Constitution of Zimbabwe. It cannot be taken by anyone, cannot be limited by anyone, save for general law.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much for watching. This was a very informative segment, and this was very educative for a lot of us, and hopefully you enjoyed it. Catch us on our next episode, and thank you so much for watching.